Today, on the UK edition of Daring Abroad, we bring you the story of 24-year-old Trevor Kibet, who left the country at a young age of 16 years and has lived in over 5 different countries. Unlike most Kenyans who dare abroad for personal gain, for Trevor, it was all about love for his country. I caught up with him at his home in Karen, Nairobi County, as he narrated his experience.
I was going abroad to build my skills. I was going to build my intellect, build my network so I can be able to come back one day and contribute somehow in the development of Kenya and Africa at large.
Trevor Kibet has spent a significant part of his life overseas. He has lived in 5 different countries in a span of 8 years, with his last stop being the United Kingdom.
The British culture wasn't so foreign to me, so I was able to, insert myself culturally and socially. I felt that the environment was very conducive for conversation, very conducive for, you'd have debates about all kinds of things from religion to economics to physics, engineering. So it was really enriching.
But his journey began back in 1994, right here in Nairobi, Kenya.
So growing up, I was a very curious young child, always asking myself about why is the world the way it is? Why does the world or the systems around the world work the way they do? And especially in Kenya, in the context of Kenya, I was really wondering, why is Kenya not as developed as other countries around the world? And I decided to send a letter to the Minister of Finance at the age of 13 to talk about some of my ideas about how we can actually improve Kenya and make it more developed. Also talked about the need for young people to engage in their own way, in their small way in terms of contributing to change. And I thought sending a letter was my own small way of contributing to that change. The Minister of Finance was so impressed by my letter and decided to invite me for the annual budget reading in 2007. And I was actually featured, my letter was featured in the budget reading.
This made Trevor a household name in 2007, and he was heavily featured in the press. From newspapers to primetime news, Trevor became the talk of the town. Unfortunately, this publicity also came with its fair share of public ridicule.
They were thinking that there was some unfair play somehow, or someone had some particular connection with maybe a minister or a government official, which wasn't the case at all. And for someone who's that young, it can be difficult to deal with.
But despite the negativity, the period was a life-changing experience for Trevor, because his actions caught the attention of the African Leadership Academy, a pre-university institution that trains young leaders across Africa to be the next generation of African leaders. The school offered him a sponsorship that resulted in Trevor leaving the country in 2010 for Johannesburg, South Africa.
I was very scared. It was leaving your parents, leaving your community, leaving the people you love, going to some place completely different. It was quite scary. But the school was just an amazing experience. I got to learn about other places that I'd never really known about.
And in 2013, after completing his leadership studies, Trevor made the decision to relocate to France and joined Sciences Po University for his undergraduate in international relations with special focus on Euro-African interaction.
The first 3 to 6 months was difficult. Even just adapting to the culture, completely different from home. France was a massive culture shock. I was being tested in every single type of way you can imagine, be it socially, academically, even just doing groceries, even just going to the shop, and you cannot communicate. It was such a tough experience.
However, his vision for a better Kenya kept him going.
Even during the times I couldn't understand anything in class, even during the times where I felt like, maybe I don't deserve to be here. Maybe even during the times where I was like, I'm way out of my depth here. I can't do this. I really can't do this. I just knew I'm doing this for a greater purpose. This is not for me. This is for my country, for my family. I'm representing my community. I'm an ambassador for my country.
And it is this purpose that eventually led him to the UK in 2017 to further his studies. He joined the prestigious Oxford University for Masters in African Studies.
And it was again, with going along with my vision and dream of learning more about the African continent and finding ways as to how we can, solve some of the biggest challenges that the continent faces. The African Studies program is a research program where you look at African affairs, where you focus on a certain issue around Africa and do research on it.
But despite the vast experience he had of living in different countries, he still had trouble adjusting to life in the UK.
There's something we call the Imposter Syndrome. I really felt like an imposter there. I really felt like, do I really deserve to be here? Do I really deserve to be at Oxford? There's such a lack of African voices or Kenyan voices.
Apart from this, Trevor also realized that the narrative of life abroad being better than life back home was not entirely true.
You think that everything is better there. You think the food is better there. I don't think so. You think the culture is better there. Something I missed a lot from home was the culture of camaraderie, the culture of community that we have. Someone just coming over for tea. It's a very lonely place at times. There's no sense of community. It's very individualistic. So we have a lot to teach the West.
And true to his plan, once he completed his studies, Trevor, without a second thought, came back home in 2018, eager to play his part in bettering his country. He hit the ground running and was fortunate enough to get a job as a consultant for peace and mediation for the European Institute of Peace, an international organization based in Brussels.
It involves a lot of traveling around the region, around the country. I've gotten to, organize a series of conferences or organize a series of meetings that, kind of facilitate that process.
Since his return, Trevor has been able to utilize his experience not only in advising policymakers, but also in educating and inspiring the youth.
Right now, I'm advising a number of students actually, or a number of friends who want to apply to Oxford and apply for these opportunities and scholarships abroad, and telling them about how to go about it. So that has been my remit. I've also been very involved in mentoring young people, especially in the church. So recently I was running the Young Men's Fellowship at my local church, that's Karen.
Trevor believes that the young people have a key role to play in developing this nation. And unlike the past, they have numerous platforms to make their voices heard.
We should never underestimate ourselves and the power we have. I think even now we have even greater power. We have more platforms to communicate some of these ideas, with social media, Facebook, Twitter. YouTube is now democratized. There's opportunity for everyone to kind of express themselves and express their ideas and make their voices heard, and we need to make use of these platforms.
He further implores the older generation to give the younger generation a chance to share their ideas, just as he was, because to him, it is the only way to achieve our dreams as a country.
At the end of the day, my ethos is that you can learn something from anyone. I can learn something from a 4-year-old, I can learn something from a 70-year-old, I can learn something from a 30-year-old. They all have something to offer.
For Trevor, the work has only just begun, and he is determined to make a difference in this country. He is also thankful for the opportunity to study abroad, because it not only gave him the necessary skill set, but also made him the person he is today.
I think when you go outside, you actually start to appreciate the value of the things we have, that it's important for us to embrace our culture, embrace our language, embrace our diversity, and there's so much value in that. There's so much value in believing in ourselves, in believing in homegrown products, in believing in homegrown entrepreneurship, believing in homegrown leadership, and looking for ideas that will really transform the way we do things that are also homegrown.
He, however, does admit that it is important to dare abroad and learn about other places.
What happens in China, what happens in the United States, what happens in South Africa, we have become so interlinked that now we have to embrace a culture of trying to learn about other places, other people, and just, breaking barriers and breaking boundaries.
And this is the advice he has for all those daring abroad on our Diaspora Bite.
Don't forget where you come from. And of course, if you have the opportunity, try come back and contribute in your own way.
Trevor says that there is still hope in the African continent, hope that can be translated into positive change and economic growth. But this is only possible if there is cooperation between the young and older generation. Until next time, I'm Michael Zimanji.